Hello and good afternoon. My name is Faisal Al-Bitar and I am the head of the Innovation Hub at the Arab Bank and AB Accelerator. AB Accelerator is a corporate accelerator program that focuses on investing and partnering up with fintech companies across the globe. Welcome to our series of webinars. We've launched these series of webinars in these past few weeks, really touching upon the world of fintech and digital transformation. And for today's webinar, we'll be diving deeper into the world of RegTech and focusing on the vertical of KYC and identity management, and more in particular, talking about the enhanced due diligence. I see what we're seeing here within the pandemic is that there's challenges of financial crime that are quite significant and becoming harder to resolve. But we're seeing that there's also an advances in implementing RegTech solutions to help us improve in terms of how do we do our customer onboarding, really knowing our KYC and anti-money laundering systems at the heart of the due diligence. Today, we have a company called Neotas, and the founders of Neotas will be presenting this session today. Neotas is a platform powered by AI and machine learning that analyzes publicly available information, including social media and deep web, to provide deeper insights into people and companies at a high speed and low cost. I'd like to introduce the speakers who are the founders of Neotas. Vipul Mishra is a cybersecurity risk and legal investigation expert with a rare blend of cybersecurity law and IT business expertise. He has a proven track record of detecting and navigating complex financial crime and intellectual property legal cases. Our second panelist is Ian Howard. He has more than 25 years in investment banking, and his last role was the head of credit business at the Canadian Bank. Has extensive experience in business development, management, and strategy. Both of our experience are well adversed in this line of business, and I'm looking forward to hearing a lot more insights in terms of how they're seeing this world and this vertical evolving. So before I ask the speakers to open their cameras and to lead the session, we'll have 40 to 45 minutes of a discussion, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A. Please add your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll take these questions at the end. For now, I'd like to transfer the session to the speakers. So please open your cameras and lead the discussion.
Great, thank you so much, Faisal. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you so much for your time, everyone, on joining this webinar as well. Faisal, I will just quickly share my screen. If
yes.
That's okay, lead to the presentation. Let me know when you can see the screen. Hope you can see it now. Great. So guys, my name is Vipul Mishra, as Faisal introduced, and I've got my co-founder here as well, Ian Howard. As Faisal mentioned, we are from this background, and we're going to talk about online due diligence and how you can avoid any surprises, how you can know more about your customers, about third-party risk effectively. So before we start, let's just look at what is the EDD, enhanced due diligence process, or what are the different steps within the process that we currently take, or the industry currently take. So at a very basic level, people do customer identification. That's about matching the photo against a document, just making sure if there's a John Smith, it is the right John Smith, the photo matches. Now, once you've done, and there are some super cool companies nowadays doing it. There are a couple of them listed over here, taking your photo using a phone and a selfie, taking a photo of your passport, and the machine does similarity matching. Then at the next level, once you've identified the customer, yes, it's the right person, then we check some databases, such as credit database, criminal records, those kind of things. Again, there are lots of great companies out there, such as Experian, Equifax, Dudil. There are plenty out there that can be used for customer checks as well. At the next level, when you have to start doing a little bit more deeper due diligence process, then we start looking at news and licensed content. Now, by that, what I mean is like traditional definition of adverse media. There are great companies such as Lexis Thompson, where the traditional newspaper, traditional PEP list, sanction list, all these things have been put together in a great big databases that you can search for legal court records, those kind of things in adverse media. And what happens is these are database checks. So you're actually checking the person against a database. You're just making sure the person exists in a database or not. And when you have to do a little bit more deeper and enhanced due diligence, people tend to go for private investigation companies. They're called off risk consultancies companies. They will do some investigation for you and give you a detailed enhanced due diligence report. Now, there are two sources, boots on the grounds and internet, that is used in private investigation. Now, as you can see there on the top right corner, that means it does take longer, but they are much deeper and it costs a lot as well. And as you can see, there's a big gap out there. And that's the gap that we're going to talk about today, which is open source intelligence. As we all know, there's a huge database out there, right? Called internet. We all use it in our day-to-day life, right? The social media, deep web, dark web, the whole of the internet. We all use it in our personal life. Whenever we have to meet someone, we just pull up our phones and we start Googling or checking people on social media and all these things. So we use it. We use this source, this huge, valuable online source for personal due diligence, but not necessarily in a corporate setting as much as we could. And that's the thing we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to focus on. And you're going to focus on this source, how we can navigate this complicated source as well, and how modern technologies are helping us speeding up navigating and interrogating these sources for our enhanced due diligence process. So let's talk about, I mentioned we don't necessarily use it in a corporate setting very well. What are the challenges when it comes to internet, right? So let me just talk about three parts of the internet. All these three parts of the internet are available to everyone who has got access to internet. The top bit is surface web, the middle bit is deep web, and the bottom bit is dark web. Again, there's nothing dark about the dark web. It is still accessible to everyone. You just need a special browser, download, and you can actually start accessing it. Now, what do we actually mean by surface web? Surface web is a part of internet or part of websites that have been indexed by search engines. That's the part of the internet that you can actually search using Google, Yahoo, Bing, or any other local search engines. And it could be that there's certain parts of the website, for example, even if you take any social media, some parts of Twitter, Facebook, shopping website, customer review website, those parts are not necessarily indexed on Google. So if you go to the website, you can see the material, but then you can't really see that material, that content when you search on Google. And that bit is called deep web. So there could be a part of Twitter, could be a part of some website which are indexed by Google. So when you search for those terms, you will find the results on search engine, but there's other part of those websites which are called deep web. So these are the things which are not indexed by the websites, or the websites can actually tell the crawlers, the search engine crawlers, that don't come on these pages and index. So that is all non-indexed content which is out there. Many PEP lists, many sanction lists, quite a lot of information out there on different websites are on the internet, but not necessarily indexed by search engines. So you don't really see those results on Google. Now, in terms of percentage, many of you would know that the surface web, this thing, the part of the internet that you can search using Google is very small. It's only 4 to 5%. Deep web is the biggest part, 90 plus, and dark web is a very, very tiny part. That's just a part that you can use to anonymize yourself to find different information. So yeah, so search engine, whenever you're searching Google, you're searching only 4 to 6% of the internet. The remaining is available to you, right? So that's first challenge. How do you navigate the full internet? And whenever you search 4 to 6%, there's thousands of results, right? No one goes to Google page 100 or page 10 or 20. How do you do that? And then there's so much unstructured data to review. There's 4 billion users on social media, 126 million tweets every day, right? So the non-financial risks are actually hidden sometimes in these things. How do you navigate all that unstructured data? How do you find John Smith, right? When we type a name, there are lots of results. How do you know which is the right one? And then there's false positives as well. Now, John Smith could be living as Julie on the internet as well. So how do you know which is the right one? And all these websites are changing. It's ever changing. It's not like LexisNexis Thomson, which are pretty static in the way you use them. Internet and websites change. How do you keep on top of that? So the bottom line is, if you really want to thoroughly search open sources, then there is quite a lot of complexity. It's very time intensive and costly to navigate the whole internet. And then, okay, so how can you solve it? So there's a science called open source intelligence. Nowadays, it's even taught at universities, in war studies, and many other things on how to navigate the publicly available data. The whole science is called OSINT. You can search that. open source intelligence awesome is very popular out there. There are many courses, many universities offering them. What does it mean? It's a science used by cybersecurity heavily and by intelligence agencies as well. It's basically a science on how to join the dots in publicly available data. It's not limited to search engine, although it's a big part of it. Using the search engines in a very effective, detailed manner is a big part of OSINT as well. And then basically it helps to identify risk and how can it help you in your context? How do you identify the risk, financial crime related risk, fraud related risk, source of funds that you want to know, affiliations, politically exposed people that are not in those databases. That's how it can help you navigate and find all that information on the internet. I'll just give you a few examples, but there are plenty of places. There's something called open corporates you can go to. Again, a lot of these things are not really searchable by Google. You can go to verify that email Perminator. Then this Facebook has got many search tools. Twitter has got many advanced search tools. And this is a very, very long list. If you look at the list of things, this is just a glimpse of sources available on the internet. Not all the sources are indexed by Google, which can be used for AML, anti-money laundering. So this is a small part of the toolbox available to you to be used for anti-money laundering. So there's a huge amount of sources. And now imagine going through all these sources one by one, trying to look at the results and then trying to have a big whiteboard and where you're trying to join all the dots. Hang on, this for the phone number, this for the email address, this was the associates. How is it linked together? If you do it in a very structured manner, although OSINT is great, lots of places are there, it can be very time consuming and expensive. But it's great resource nowadays to find the non-financial risk that you can't find in the traditional databases. So how can we, now we understand that yes, OSINT is a big source, open source information is a big source out there to understand the financial risk. How can technology, how can artificial intelligence and machine learning actually help us do this in a cost-effective and a speedy manner? What you can do is, that's what we've done at Neotas as well. So artificial intelligence can automate a lot of these open searches, because it's not just literally saying that search there, but actually triangulating that as well. So if you search something and then you find a couple of email addresses, phone numbers, or comments and things, you need to triangulate those as well. You need to have a confidence score about that as well. So AI can actually not only run lots of searches for you, but it can actually help to triangulate the searches. It can run many intelligence cycles in seconds and in minutes. That will take you days and weeks for a human being to do. So if you imagine of all the sources which I showed you in previous slides and trying to get all the output from there and join all the dots, it's very time intensive, and sometimes a human brain cannot even join so many dots together as well. But using AI, you can actually navigate these complex open sources, go way beyond Google, go way beyond simple Twitter and Facebook searches, run these intelligence cycles and find the true digital trails of your customer, of your third party that you're trying to identify or evaluate the risk on. So that's great. AI can help you massively on that side. You can write all these things, but what do you do with the data that comes out? There'll be lots of text, and this very unstructured text, because that's like natural language that people are talking about as well. There'll be lots of images and videos nowadays as well. How do you extract all that information? There'll be lots of languages, right? You're on board customers in different languages. How do you read that? Then you need to have the contextual analysis. That's where machine learning can massively help you as well. There are two streams to machine learning. One is natural language processing, which actually navigate the natural language rather than it goes way beyond keywords. So like I love drugs and I hate drugs are two really different things. So it can understand those languages and then identify the key risk indicators for you. And the good thing about machine learning is it removes that human bias. If a human being is reviewing 10,000 tweets, so lots of data, they all will have different biases, but the machine actually removes that for you. But these engines should be driven by human as well. Our AI and machine learning helps speeding up your weeks and months of tasking to hours, sometimes minutes, but still you need human being. Still these things have limitation. They're about 15 to 20% false positives still in machine learning, very mature models as well. So you need a human being to drive this engine, remove any false positive. The human being still has that investigative mindset that you can't really bake in to machine as much as we wish to. And the human being can do the risk analysis by understanding the context of the client as well. Is it a wealth management client, in a corporate client, or whatever? You can actually do all these things. But using these techniques, human can really speed up their work as well. And I'll try to bring this to life, and then you can actually use these techniques to deliver very clear, crisp summary reports by navigating the whole internet. Presenting that in 1 or 2 pages is the art. And I'll try to take you through some of the live demo, and well, these are some of the recordings. So apologies for some of the contents which I'm going to show you here as well. This is to give you a glimpse of how we have used AI and machine learning to navigate and speed up all the open source intelligence that I spoke about. I'll apologize in advance because a lot of these material, to bring it to life, we have to look at the real data and show you some of the real data as well of real companies, real subjects. So pardon me if you see any offensive material on this as well. So let me just start this thing. So our customers, if we just put a little, just name and email address for a due diligence, type in really quickly, just the name, just the email address, phone number of a subject. Just with that little information, you can run all these intelligence cycles that I spoke about, which normally takes weeks and months. Straight away, the AI on the next screen can actually bring you with all this information. For example, in this subject had like 4 or 5 Twitter accounts, right? So many other email addresses, so many websites. This could be a company. It doesn't have to be an individual. You can run these checks on companies as well. Companies have many digital footprints and social media pages as well. So here, straight away, this is the kind of work which used to take me days and weeks. And now I've baked all these things into AI, and AI can straight away tell me all these digital footprints available of that company or the individual in a really quick manner. So that's a prime example. And AI can triangulate many more things that I could have manually done. I've got some background in intelligence as well. So yeah, it wouldn't have been possible to even find these digital footprints. Now, what are the kind of things that it finds? So all the digital footprint that AI engine has actually found, then the machine actually goes to those places. For example, and these are all real data. These are all the customer reviews of a company, for example, that actually tells you is there any indication of fraud or risk and these kind of things. That's the employees' reviews as well. Sometimes that gives you a glimpse of employees are saying I'm not being paid or things like being delayed, all these things. These are another customer reviews where actually you'll get a glimpse of is the customer, whether it's customers, whether it's third party, whether it's other companies as well who are posting information about that. This is where you actually find non-financial risk nowadays. Now, all these media that we are looking at are non-traditional media, but they're still adverse media. They're still adverse information about the company that you need to know about. They may not necessarily sit on a news website. This may not necessarily be in Thomson Reuters or LexisNexis, but this is crucial. This is where you actually identify the risk as well. Again, these are all real website, real data that you can see, which talks and gives you a risk indicator of the company or the person or the director that you're looking into before giving away your money. For example, this could be director and looking at all the digital footprint. So I'm going to quickly skip through the content as well. So here what machine has done is machine has gone through all the content that we looked at. All that, first of all, machine identified all the digital footprint, which I showed you in the previous screen, which was really quick, converting weeks and months into hours and minutes. And then machine went to all those locations that I just showed you, downloaded all the text, downloaded all the pictures, downloaded all the videos, analyzed it for key risk indicators. Now, those key risk indicators could be indication of fraud, illegal activities, or drugs, or anything else that your bank or your institution wants to pick up and know about as well. And then I skipped to the content really quickly because that was true real content, and there were some offensive things in there as well. But on top of the screen that you just saw, this is what an analyst sees. The analyst don't have to go to all the website, don't have to go to these things. Only the classified information by machine learning shows up over here, and any other breaches show up over here as well. It can simply say yes, no, remove any false positive, and actually save it. So this is an example of how a machine can speed up your work. And I'll just give you a little quick glimpse of how machine learning, computer vision, because nowadays, loss of data is not just text, it's images, it's videos as well. And that's where the risk indicators are hitting. Sometimes people post their videos and things with arms and guns and different things. Do you really want to know about that? So this is how it works in the back end. This is how we have trained our engine. For example, we did a little bit of analysis on this picture. Straight away, the way we trained our machine learning engine told us that there's some sort of inappropriate content going on here. So you can see a flag on this side. There's also extracted all the terms, all the things it can actually pick up in that image. Again, you don't have to drag each image every time manually, it just does it automatically. Again, this is a video, so when the machine analyzes the videos, it picks up all the scenes and the objects. Again, it has picked up, hang on, there's something inappropriate going on over there. What are the different things you can see on the right-hand side? There's a person, there's a gun, there's all those things. The other thing machine can do is the whole machine learning image analysis. For example, in this photo, you can see a cup and a remote effectively. And if I try to zoom into this, you can see here it says contents may be hot, very, very small print, and there's lots of things written on the remote. So it will automatically analyze the image, the machine, all the text within the image, and it will show you any flags. Of course, there are no flags here, there's no risk there. But imagine if there were certain words or certain things that your bank is really worried about, you want to know about it, even if it's embedded in a video or an image, you want to know about it, it will extract that, it will show you. As you can see further down, here it actually showed you all the words that were written on the cup. So minute, so detailed. So that's the power of machine learning. Imagine you're investing in a subject with thousands and hundreds of photos and videos. You can't sit and manually scan all those things, but at the same time, you don't want to miss on things. If there's a clear indication of fraud, there's clear indication of illegal activities or things that you don't want to onboard, and those photos and videos are on social media or internet or company website, customer review website, this technology's AI machine learning can extract all that information for you and raise any risk indicators fairly quickly. Imagine you don't have to do this manually at all. Then on top of that, what you can do is, so certain things, yes, you can automatically analyze. Imagine you land onto a particular page manually as well. Then rather than reading the whole page, which takes a long time when you're doing open source intelligence, you want a kind of machine to automatically highlight key bits of information. So you can say, analyze this page. And what machine can do is it can take all the data and highlight the key things in different colors for you. For example, anything here in pink is a person. So machine has automatically detected that these are the people. And then anything in this orange is organization. It understands different type of entities. Anything in blue is an event. But when you're scanning and looking at these pages, it's so much easier and quicker to analyze the information. This could be a document, this could be a web page as well. And then you can just right click on something. You know, when you're doing an investigation, you're trying to have this whiteboard where you're trying to draw the arrows. You don't have to do it. You can do it live in your web browser. You can just right click on that and link it. You can say in your web browser, Dominic is linked to UK. You can say, okay, you know what, there's another guy called Tony. I want to save that because that's related to my case and that Tony is linked to Ireland. You can do other things like green is all locations. You can say, okay, fine, I want to pick up China and China is linked to Hong Kong kind of thing. So you can carry on and doing these things on the fly. You don't have to go into a separate dashboard or separate start making notes, and you can play around with this and navigate the internet and create the full report. Now, once you've done that, I've shown you quite a lot of different bits. One was how do you find the digital footprints? The first screen which I showed you with the losses of websites and social media accounts related to the company. We analyze all the text in an automated manner. We analyze images in an automated manner. We can analyze the websites and create these links. And when you combine all these things together, this can convert into a very nice and crisp due diligence report. This is one of the reports that we produce as well using all these things. Here you can actually see this is true enhanced due diligence report, looking at adverse media, which is way beyond the traditional definition of adverse media. Adverse media nowadays is no longer BBC or any other news website. Adverse media includes client reviews, which is not included in traditional definition of adverse media. Social media sources, passive media sources, employees, these are all adverse media. PEP, politically exposed people. Many politically exposed people are not necessarily in PEP database, right? So, but open source analysis can actually tell you, actually, this person is linked to that politically, even though they may not be in a database. Not every politically exposed people are there. Any financial irregularities that you don't necessarily get from credit report, you can see that. So there's all these categories that you can train the machine learning model on to extract all the information on the internet and give you the results. And I'll just flick through this report very quickly because there's lots of content in this. And then I will show you that when you were browsing the web pages before and creating the network charts, how we can pull that information together. A lot of other information that you can find on the internet is assets of the person's source of funds as well. For example, here we just found lots of different addresses and houses owned by the person as well. They may not have necessarily declared that, but through all the network and information on the internet, people leak this information. Their friends and their families and other things can leak this information about them as well. And if you PEP and sanction this, again, I discussed there's lots of PEPs who are not on PEP database. You can find that. Now, all the drawings that you're doing on the browser, linking people, or the machine learning has come up with 5 Twitter accounts, so many Facebook accounts, so many companies' websites, all that information automatically creates this network chart for you. So you can actually have a glimpse of, literally a snapshot of all the investigation that you have done as well. So I know I've gone through in a very speedy manner, but there are I've just tried to show you lots of different tool set, different machine technology that can come together to create this wonderful open source intelligence report, make the best use of information that's available out there, and understand the non-financial risk, what the customers are saying, what their counterparties are saying as well. Now, once you've done the initial bit, you want to monitor that person. It's not about just one-off report. It's about continuous monitoring. So what you can do is, once you have identified the digital footprints, you can actually just put your web crawlers and different things on that. And this is what we do. Again, this is real life data, so apologies if you see anything offensive here. So once you've got the initial report, then we actually constantly crawl those sources, because we have done the hard bit of finding the key places on the internet where the company or the customer exists. And now we constantly scan those sources for any new risk. So here you can say, okay, what are the different events where the director has been added, resigned from the company? And these are all bespoke things based on the bank's requirements. What's the information coming out there? You can select the time period for which you want to review all the data on the internet. What are the different categories of information you're seeing there as well? And then you can select the companies that you're trying to look at. What are the groups of places on the internet where most of the data sits? How much is it? What are the true sources over there? What's the timeline? And if you're looking at the rating between 1 to 5, you can see, you know what, most of the time people on Glassdoor are rating as 5, but the company is actually being rated. If you look at the customer reviews, they are 1. So you can start getting a glimpse of that. And anything that has been classified by machine as a negative sentiment, all the keywords and the amount of usage is shown in this word cloud on the left. On the right, you can see all the positive things, because it's not just the negative thing. You're trying to make a good assessment of the customer, the client, the negative and positive. You can select any of the words over there, and then for anything in this dashboard, you can just select, and the whole thing gets filtered by that thing that you're selected. So all these are the tweets, so the information on the internet with the word worst. And this is the time and where it was posted. Now you may say, okay, you know what? I just want to pick up only the things that had negative sentiment. You just click on that, and then it shows you only the list of things, including the word worst and sentiment classified the machine as negative. So again, you don't have to go to all the websites. You don't have to troll the internet. You just look at the dashboard, ongoing monitoring, and you can even get alerts from this. You can define your pre-filters here on top, and you can actually get it. So using the power of machine, you can machine learning and AI, not only get the initial report, but on the ongoing basis, you can monitor the risk. You don't want to be in a situation where you are the last person, where you have lent money to a client, given our customer onboarding, and there's quite a lot of bad things happening about that client on the internet. People are saying it openly, but you are not aware of it. This technology allows you to scan all that content, analyze all that content as well in real-time basis, and get alerted on that. So you're not relying just on traditional definition of adverse media. So that's that. Let me just flip to the next slide. Oh, sorry. So that was a glimpse of technology. So let me just cover now what are the, let me take you to some of the case studies that of Neotas. What did we find? And these are all real case studies, and I'll try to give you a very high level overview of that. So we were one of our financial clients. They gave us, they were making, it was M&A investment use case. So what we found was, we were doing our traditional due diligence on this. We found a cached version on LinkedIn. right? So LinkedIn people keep on changing the LinkedIn, but they forget that there's call of cash version available out there. So straight away using machine, we found a cash version out there that showed that the person, the subject, was employed in US. Then we found a website domain that the subject registered back in 2005 under a different surname than we were given. We also found through that another email address with the original initial. So this person actually changed his name, but I'm trying to show you how we found it. Old LinkedIn, people register the websites, forget about it, and there was another email address with different initials as well. So we use all this information to conduct a deep web search, which confirmed his another true identity and true date of birth, rather than the date of birth that was given to us. So straight away over here, we were given a different name, but we found a completely different name of the person, a different surname of the person that he was using beforehand. Then we performed searches on US court record for those names, and then we found that he was actually convicted for a wire fraud, and he was jailed in 2007 as well. We also found that the US regulator FINRA, he was struck on that, he was on that list. But if you would have done traditional searches, you don't find it because you're searching for the wrong name. The person has changed their name and not told you about it as well. And then the subject actually flew to UK and he changed his surname to his mother's maiden surname, and he got a new password. And what we found was that the recent CV and the recent LinkedIn profile and all those things were all related to another individual with the same surname to avoid being detected. And this new identity that he had borrowed effectively or trying to mimic, we found a video footage of that person. And then when we looked at the video footage, or when the machine tried to do the similarity of that video to the passport photo, it said, hang on, this doesn't really match. So now you can see this person was clear through all the traditional checks, whether it's ID check because the passport is right, the name is right, everything was true. But when you join the dots using open source intelligence, we found that this person had a different identity and he was struck by FINRA and had call of court records. So basically, and based on all this information, of course, the investment was cancelled and the subject was referred to FCA. So it was a really interesting case that we did. It was of hidden identity. Another one, it was a debt collection case. A bank gave some money to this company and the CEO fled. They were like, okay, the CEO has just gone missing. We need to serve the notice. Where do we serve the notice? We conducted enhanced due diligence. Then we found that the subject, we found the social media profile of the subject under a different name, but connected to the email address. People don't realize that it's possible to find the email addresses through social media profiles as well. Then we found he was using a fitness application, Strava, and we could actually map the path that he was taking to cycle. And we could see the start and end point and half run. So that was a clear indicator. Hang on, this is the person, that's his Strava account. Every day he's cycling from this route to that route. So that means there's a high probability that's his house. Using satellite imagery, we were able to triangulate that location, but it was a remote property in Europe. Then using more open source available information, we were able to find the image of the property. Took that image, and then we found it on real estate website. We found that, yeah, this was the property which was recently sold in this area, and that kind of matched the timing since he went missing effectively. And we went to the cached version of the real estate website to find the property address. Using all this information, linking it all together, we had the address of the subject, and our client was able to serve a summons at his property. So again, the power of open source information, and it goes to show that people forget how much information is being leaked about the companies and about them. People don't realize that the Strava is open and there are hundreds of applications out there. People don't realize this cache version of LinkedIn and all these things, and you can actually join all them together. But of course, you need really good tools to make it quicker and faster and effective. I'll take you to another one as well, bribery and corruption. So it was a subject on which it was a CDD, corporate banking client. Director, we looked at significant individuals as well. So we found the subject was clean, but the subject husband had been involved in bribery and corruption. So significant individuals are not just the director, sometimes friends and families as well. We found that he was linked to bribery and corruption, which was involved in procurement of military hardware. When we looked at Mr. X, which is a husband of key subject, we found he had several shell companies, and we found the evidence of him being director. Again, this is more about finding the significant individual and then digging deep. You can't find these kind of significant individuals using traditional database directorship checks. He was actually involved in lots of different things. He was involved in murder as well. He was linked to the prime minister of the country where he belonged to. and then he had moved to the UK. Now he had moved to the UK but gone missing. No one really knew where he was in the UK as well. Then through his friends and family's social media analysis, we found that there were quite a lot of posts about a hairdressing company in the UK as well. And then we did quite a lot of geographic photo analysis of those information. And then actually we found he was running a hairdressing salon under a completely different company name, which is a variation of the subject name as well. So again, using all this information, we were able to find that the actual subject, who are the key individuals actually pulling the string. So the corporate account was being opened on wife's name, but it was the husband who was involved, and we found exactly what he was doing as well. These are just a few case studies. We get case studies, many of them pretty much every week. So they're lovely little stories which piece together. And all this information is in open source public domain. So yeah, we detected and confirmed the location of the shell company and reported to a client as well. So the power of internet, the regulatory landscape is massively changing as well. European Banking Authority clearly says that open source searches should be conducted. The intelligence reports. FCA in the UK is talking about how open source internet checks should be used to supplement. It's not a replacement. It's definitely not a replacement. You should carry on using the database checks for PEP lists, sanction lists, traditional adverse media, but there are clear guidelines. The regulatory landscape has massively shifted within the last 6 to 18 months, where they're saying, we can't ignore the information that's available on the internet. And you can find PEPs. Don't rely on the database. You have to do proper search on the internet as well to identify if they are a high-risk customer or they are PEP or not. FINRA in America, that regulator, they have gone beyond that. They are saying you need to monitor the traders. We know, traders know that the Bloomberg, Reuters, all the terminals and emails are being recorded and analyzed. Are they doing market manipulation using that? No. There have been many cases, they have shifted to online social media. They pick up their phone and all the market manipulation is happening on the internet. So that is why FINRA in America have clearly released their guidelines. And these are just a glimpse of recent regulatory landscape shift. But they're clearly saying you have to monitor social media profiles of the traders. They are handling people's money. And you can't just say that, yeah, 8 billion people on the planet knew about it because it was on the internet, but the bank didn't know about it because they were not monitoring the open sources in a systematic manner. So yeah, so massive regulatory burden nowadays, if you want to call it. But the good news is there's technology out there to speed up this information, to speed up the whole open source intelligence for you, to analyze the data, analyze unstructured data, to find that data on the internet as well in a very structured manner, effectively. So yeah, so that's it for me on a high level. Ian, do you have anything that you want to add?
Well, I guess the only thing I'd add is, you know, as you was finishing the presentation there, is that the regulatory landscape is moving, you know, and that's, I think, the thing that we want to sort of focus on, is that what's becoming quite clear is that the traditional databases that we have used in doing the KYC and AML checks are beginning to be insufficient, and people are being asked to do more. You know, we're expected to actually put the K in the know your client, you know their business, and also what's becoming clear is the challenges that firms have to basically do that. Where do you find the information? And as we go and talk to clients, what's becoming more and more important is the non-financial aspects of clients' dealings, which help basically build those pictures up. So, you know, as part of the demonstration, you know, we spoke about customer reviews, we spoke about client reviews. You know, we also sort of look at things like directors' social media accounts to sort of see their behaviors in terms of how they're acting. And this information is really helping you build a profile of a business, which up until this point you couldn't really do. Even if you did site visits and went to interview the directors and what have you of the companies, those situations were very curated. So it was very difficult to get a very clear view on what goes on. You know, you asked for references, it was normally the company that would provide you a reference as to who you should go and speak to. And again, they would point you in the direction of those people that would always give them good references. So things that were very difficult to sort of do in the past, and the challenges around those processes, I think, have been highlighted. And the internet and everybody having a voice has really enabled us to basically now have a much clearer view on the companies and their performance and get a much fuller picture. And it's quite clear that the regulatory landscape is pushing towards that too. So I think it's very much the way forward going, from now on.
Thanks, Ian. Faisal, we're open to questions.
Great, thank you guys. Perfect, we'll go to our first question, and I believe we touched upon this, is how do you leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning to transform the regulatory and compliance processes? So obviously what you guys do is a large part of it. I don't know if you would like to add a little bit more here in terms of AI and machine learning and why you chose these specific technologies.
Sure. So absolutely, as we saw from the regulatory burden, earlier regulatory burden was more about database checks. And I come from hedge fund industry, so does Ian. Ian comes from investment banking as well. And I was doing, my team was spending ever more time. If I look at about 20 years ago, there were simple checks. Check a database, information comes in, that's it really. But recently, my team was spending more and more time on the internet, effectively, looking for things. And I was seeing inconsistent results. And they were spending more and more time on, finding information on the internet and these things. And that's exactly why we use AI and machine learning to speed up the unstructured data. When we had structured data like credit records and criminal records and PEP database and all these things, you didn't need AI and machine learning, right? And now you have to transform the process of manual internet searches and manual social media searches, which are all inconsistent because Google gives you different results depending on who is looking at what your browsing history is, right? So you want to make it consistent. You can't really have, that's why I said it's fine to use Google and all these things as a consumer for personal use. In a corporate setting, it has to be consistent and fast. If I do these searches manually, my guys was taking like weeks and it does become prohibitive. I have to comply with regulatory guidelines, but it takes weeks and days to do it. So using AI and machine learning, we're able to speed up analyzing all these unstructured photos and videos and text. And completely transform our enhanced due diligence process to do it in a very quick, efficient, consistent manner. Absolutely. So we're talking about very specific use case, which is EDD using open sources. Absolutely.
Great. A follow-up on this is, can you touch more about the NLP and how that supports you in the adverse media searches?
Sure. So I think, again, the word adverse media has changed in many people's opinion. Traditional definition of adverse media is news. But if you ask Donald Trump, he will say it's Twitter, right? And that's what people look at. And that's what regulators are saying media is that's available to public, right? That's the bottom line. And what's available to public is internet. And a lot of information out there is in text form. And the text form is, imagine you're reading the whole news, even if it's a news article with 10,000 tweets, you can't read it. It will take a long time to read it. So what natural language processing does, it goes way beyond the keyword searches. So in old days, we are actually taking all the adverse media data and we had like keywords, like I said, drugs and arms and weapons and fraud and all the things. But that's what I found was that all on the internet, it's very unstructured, right? If you have, like I said, I love drugs and I hate drugs, are completely two different things. It's saying I have been a victim of fraud, or saying that company committed fraud, or I committed fraud. They're all different things. So natural language processing goes way beyond the keywords, understand the context of the whole sentence or the whole paragraph, and then tells you whether it's negative, positive or not. Is it illegal activity? So it goes way beyond keyword searches for you effectively. So for any text searches, whether it's within your documents, whether it's on adverse media, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's wherever it is on the internet. So you get far less false positives than you get by simple keyword searches. And the other beautiful thing, which I can see another question as well on that, which is linked, is NLP can go way beyond languages. So our platform currently supports more than 200 languages. Not every analyst reviewing things, adverse media, knows 200 languages in a bank, but NLP can support all these languages. And now we are building a machine learning model, NLP model, which is language agnostic. So you can feed any data into it in any language. Machine will not know what the language is, but it will be able to pick up the category for you, the risk category for you.
Mm-hmm. Great. So one more question in terms of the language is, how do you manage the processing and presentation of the information coming in other languages?
Sure. So what we do is, because in our reports, there is raw data, which is in different language. So whenever we present any risk data, we present the risk data in the native language, whatever the language was, and then translated into English as well. So we normally do this translation when we show you the data in the reports as well.
And I think I would add there that the platform currently supports over 200 languages. And I guess we're working with a university on producing a language agnostic model as well. So again, the technology has really sort of come on leaps and bounds to sort of provide support across multiple jurisdictions and multiple languages.
We have a question here is from Eric. How widespread is the adoption of such new technologies in the banking sector now? Are banks adhering quickly to this new CCD and EDD collection techniques?
Yeah. So the early adopters are the ones that have been bitten are certainly sort of moving towards this at a much greater speed. I guess there's different speeds across the different industries in terms of how easy this is to get done. We're definitely finding that smaller institutions that are a little bit more nimble are adopting this quite quickly, and they see the benefits immediately. You know, the larger institutions, as always, the oil tankers are a little bit slower in terms of turning the tankers around and what have you. But I think what we're seeing is that the regulatory environment is changing, and that is causing people to change this. So we're seeing different rates of take up across different industries, across different countries. We also have multiple use cases, and we're sort of seeing different rates of take up across the various use cases. You know, clients are using us everything from onboarding of staff to onboarding of clients to looking at making investments decisions and also working with full departments. So again, it sort of varies, but I think, you know, the big thing overall that we're beginning to see is the whole landscape change, that actually the industry needs to do more than what it's been doing.
Just to add to that as well, yes, we saw, like I said, the landscape, regulatory landscape is new. There are two kind of customers. So in jurisdictions where there are less records, in many developing countries where they don't have as many credit records and criminal records, or as good record system as there is in some of the other countries, we are seeing a much quicker uptake in those. And those countries have got, people and companies have got way more digital footprint than the developed countries. If you look at the amount of internet usage by people or companies in developing countries, is way more per capita, per person, than in developed countries. Asia and Africa are leading the way in terms of usage of internet. Everyone's got 2 mobiles, 3 mobiles, those kind of things, a lot of digital footprint. So they have got way more digital information than the traditional credit records that you can check as well. So we are seeing adoption in Asia and Africa more from that point of view, because they don't have the records and they want to see the data. In terms of Europe as well, there's a big adoption. I mean, one thing which is in public domain, to answer the question, how many people? So recently, we are going through a program at the moment with ING as well. So they have adopted us. You can see it's a public information in Europe. So that's one of the big tier 1 banks who has adopted and evaluated our technology. And the other beautiful thing about that is in where there are GDPR and data privacy concerns, the technology eliminates those things. So you don't have to look at all the horrible material out there. It can be quite distressing when you're looking at quite a lot of bad information. Machine does it for you. You simply see the results related to your risk as well.
Great. We have a question, follow-up on that is, what productivity improvement in percentage does this provide to both frontline RMs and compliance officers?
Sure. I mean, I guess there's no specific answer there. It sort of depends exactly what your existing processes are. But we've spoken to clients where they would normally pass a difficult case on, and generally when people use us is, you know, once they've been through an existing process, a standardized process, they come to us to do the enhanced due diligence. At that point, what's currently happening is these reports are being built by internal risk managers. You know, they can take, you know, several days to pull a report together. Effectively, we're doing all that heavy lifting and pulling that report together for you. So you're seeing, you know, days of work that's being done manually by someone being turned into a few hours in terms of a response coming back from us. So we think this actually really frees up the risk management team from the heavy lifting that they're currently doing, to actually then go and focus on the real issues that they have at hand. So we're seeing significant time savings in terms of the workload.
Great. We have two questions on social media accounts. So the first one is, how can you associate social media accounts with specific customer of a bank? And the second one I think is quite similar, is that how do you verify the social media content? What happens if the information is wrong? And I think what is meant here is, a lot of people are posting a lot of things on social media. At times that may not really represent someone's intentions, but maybe at that period of time. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more at that sense of how important is that in terms of when you do the enhanced due diligence?
Sure. So how do you verify the social media? That's exactly the science of open source intelligence. So like I said, OSINT is a bunch of techniques, and that changes every day, right? For example, how do you, John could be living at Julie. So recent case, we had one of the cases here in the UK where someone had 52 social media accounts on the same platform under different names, and they were being used for bad purposes effectively as well. So there are many techniques like linking it through different email addresses, which there are certain things which are unique about an individual, which are, for example, email addresses, example, wives and kids, right? And their phone numbers. So there are lots of parameters that you can use to triangulate a social media profile to that specific subject and that specific person. So, and these techniques, again, these techniques are out there. I mentioned a few, but there are a huge amount of techniques. Our IT team, we actually train open source intelligence in a hacking conference called Black Hat in Vegas every year, where pen testers around the world, cybersecurity people come and learn how to find information using open source information. So techniques, there's a long list of techniques, and that's exactly what we specialize in, to keep on top of those techniques. And they're all ethical, open, legal techniques to use. And then the second follow-on question was, how do you know which is right? That's exactly what the beauty of NLP is. So natural language processing is trained to detect fake news as well. It's trained to detect the context of what is being said rather than just the word as well. So that's where the machine learning comes into play, which takes you beyond, oh, he used X word, which is bad, to actually X word was used in a good context, right? So there's lots of common abusive words which are used in a good context as well when you're saying something against or a good cause kind of thing. So that's exactly where the whole thing comes into play. And just for that's the technology bit, but that's what we do at Neotas as well. We have a human layer in the middle as well. So we control our tools, we use our tools, and then we have a human layer who has got a good understanding of the context, and they remove the false positive. I think in one of the slides I mentioned the human layer is very important to control these things. So machine has taken 80% of your work or 90% of your work. The remaining 10% you still have to do. You can't, machine will not give you 100% results. Human has to look at it, but we are converting the days and weeks into hours and minutes.
Great. The next question we have is, how would your system integrate with a case management system where such a system will rely on internal data? And in other words, how is open source intelligence results superimposed over internal data?
Sure. So all of our volume clients, we have API integration. So I think on my first screen of the video demo was you have to enter subject data. Most of our volume clients don't go and manually enter it. We have APIs using which we get that seed data about the clients, where the name, addresses, email address, phone number, whatever information that bank want to give us. That automatically flows into our system. And then at the customer onboarding stage, we agree on the risk indicators that the bank wanted back. And then we feed all that data back using APIs as well into your internal risk management system. So you can see all the data in your internal dashboards as well. So you've got full length, you've got all sorts of clients, very small clients who just use our web portal. Most of the big clients, they have never seen our web portal. They don't even know this is happening in the background. It's just like the automatic queries going to your credit data provider. Those goes to us in a few hours time or days time, whatever the SLA is. The information comes back into your system, which is curated by our analysts as well.
Great. We have a couple of questions also on the solution. So we'll take the three questions going forward. So do you integrate the results with private sources of adverse media like LexNexis, TR, and etc.? And then the next question is, do you archive the internet content and for how long?
So to answer your first question, do we integrate? So we are recently building, in fact, this morning we were given a demo to one of our clients where hooking all this adverse media sources, Lexis, Nexus, Thompson, or any other is very easy for us. If you have a subscription, we can hook into it and we can analyze the content coming from that using our NLP to refine it even further. So the answer is yes, and it's currently in development. Will be live in a couple of months as well. But if you have something, we can easily hook into it. Not an issue. It's another source. And just remind me of the second part of the question.
Yeah. So the second question is, do you archive the internet content and for how long?
Okay. No, we don't do. The good news is there are plenty of places on the internet that archives the internet. One of the example is Wayback Machine. It's like one of the websites you can actually go back and look at the cached version of different websites. So LinkedIn has got cached version. All the different places have got their own cached version of previous things. So when we are running a report, we run it live, but we look at the snapshot of the internet that existed previously as well. Only for the places where, but we don't store any information. We do it live. But we have continuous monitoring as well that our customers buy. Once you've got the report, you can set the continuous monitoring and we'll continuously monitor for your risk.
So we have two questions on anti-money laundering. So the first one is, how could you use AI for trade-based money laundering as the operations is the first line of difference, and while checking the documents, trade operations shall use manual checking? And then the second question is, do you have any cases related to anti-money laundering?
Yeah, I can take that one. I mean, we're sort of doing that right now for a trade finance company. So as they're basically pulling off and asking their clients for all the standard KYC checks, we're off in the background basically looking at the digital footprints of those companies. You know, so they operate back with their clients on a sort of a 3 to 5 day turnaround time. You know, we operate inside of that, so we tend to go back with an SLA in less than 48 hours on all the things. So so we very much basically work in conjunction with their existing process to give them a much more enhanced picture of the people that they're looking at.
And we'll take this as the last question. How much time does it take a machine to build the profile from the point the agent submits the name to the point the PDF report is generated?
Sure. Again, I'll take that one. I mean, we offer different levels of report, so it sort of depends on the level of report. But it's not an instant push the button, get the answer back. So the answer is, you know, reports can be turned around in a number of hours to a number of days, depending on the depth of the report. It depends on the depth of the report. But like I say, we tend to put SLAs in place with clients in order that we deliver to a certain time frame, and those time frames are anything from overnight, a day, out to 5 to 10 days, depending on the depth of the report.
Great, and I believe those are all our questions. Vipul, Ian, thank you very much. This has been quite insightful, and I'd like to thank everyone as well for tuning in.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, everybody. And if anybody's got any questions or anything, either come back to us directly or go directly to Faisal.
Yeah, and I see we have more questions on technically on how the solution works as well. So I'll forward those by email.
Perfect.
Thank you for hosting it.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Yes, thanks. Bye.